Hello, I'm Anaultos, and today I will be doing a listovative critique. Now, this is the fourth video in the series. You don't have to watch the earlier ones to understand what's going on. Essentially, I'm reading an article from Listovative, and I am criticizing it possibly quite heavily. So be prepared. And the reason I have a series on this is because I've noticed that this website consistently puts out articles that may not be 100% accurate. So I thought that in the interest of not only helping other people to fully understand the context and knowing what is correct, but also to help whoever is in charge of Listovative so that they may be able to make better articles, I am criticizing them. Okay, so I'm not trying to be malignant here. I'm not trying to be malevolent. I'm trying to set the record straight. So here we are, a reason. Oops, got ahead of myself. An article, Top 10 Reasons to Study History. We make a grumpy face whenever we hear the word history because we think that it is boring and it is of no use. Well, luckily for you, dear author, Aliyah Khan, I do not make a grumpy face. I actually enjoy history very much. But I am certain that probably your target audience doesn't. Anyway, no wonder that history course has been taken out from the intermediate syllabus. It has? I haven't heard about this, but if it has, then I'm pretty upset right now because, to be honest, I really like history a lot, and I would prefer other people to at least have some knowledge of history so that I can have conversations with people about history because I like having conversations with people about history. If any of you out there watching want to have a conversation with me about history, comment up and I'll see if we can get in contact. Okay. I know, you must be thinking that I am in some kind of frenzy when you read down 10 reasons to study history, but trust me, it's totally worth your time. And I can agree, unless it isn't worth your time. You know, some people are really busy, so it might not be worth their time, but if you aren't so busy that you don't have something else to do that you really need to do, then I say, sure, it's worth your time. So grab that cup of tea and read on. I do enjoy a cup of tea. That is true. And however, I do not have one with me right now. And I'm pretty sure that if I did, it would be very distracting because the way I like tea is I like to have a long tea. And by that I mean I like to have a 15-minute tea. I know a lot of people think that that is way too long, that makes a tea way too strong, but I honestly like it that way. And I also like a large volume of it. So I like a lot of tea. Now, on another note, caffeine, it doesn't really affect me as much as some other people. I actually have to almost overdose on it in order for it to work at all. And I have had some bad experience with overdosing caffeine. That wasn't very fun. You know, you feel like your eyes are going to bleed, and your vision goes all jittery. It's not fun. But I'm not addicted to caffeine. I don't drink caffeinated beverages regularly. I drink them occasionally, and I think most people are fine. But if you are addicted, then I do recommend to you that you get some help. Okay, that was off on a tangent, but I think it's okay for my videos to go off on tangents. It also, since I've got the article on screen in full this time, instead of snippets, it allows people to read ahead and to perhaps have their own opinions by the time I get to places. It tells you about the past incidents. I think that is a truism, and I don't know if that is a justification, though. As in, why would you want to know about past incidents is more the kind of thing that I was expecting. I really do know that reading about the past doesn't seem like a fun thing to do for some people. But think of possibilities, my dear reader. I'm glad that I, as well as many other readers, have been endeared to you. I'm glad that you can have this sort of endearment to complete strangers. I think that's actually a good thing. Anyway, let's move on. And moreover, how can you judge something that you haven't even... Oh, oops, sorry. When you haven't even tried it yet. I almost made the grammar worse than it was, which would have been a very egregious mistake. But I do take issue with the sentence. How can you judge something when you haven't even tried it yet? Because it is something that, well, it doesn't take much to think about instances where maybe you shouldn't try something. For example, rape. I don't recommend anyone to rape anyone. And I'm certain that the writer isn't attempting to make such a broad statement, but I am saying that there is a slippery slope there, and it's best to be specific when you're making such a statement. But of course, let's move on. Knowing about the past is highly important because incidents played a highly important role in shaping the lands which we live in. Okay? It's highly important because it's highly important. Okay. Incidents are the reasons for our tremendous lives. What about your life is tremendous? Now, of course, let me stop you right there. And I'm in saying that we don't have a context for the word tremendous here. Is the author implying that it's good, or is the author implying that it's bad? Because tremendous, depending on the context, could mean either one of those. Or it could also mean extreme. But I'm not really getting context for that, so I recommend the author that maybe next time you should contextualize that a bit better. Oh wait, maybe you are getting contextualization. Next sentence, for example, if William Shakespeare... I'm pretty sure there's an E on the end. In fact, let's look it up. William Shakespeare. Oh, there is an E at the end. Haha! See, that's what you get when you know history. You know how words are spelt. So, very good. Caught you off guard there, eh? Never thought of writing his dramas. We wouldn't have known the beautiful portrayal of a person's life. But in the end, this is very vague. We wouldn't have known the beautiful portrayal of a person's life. Of whose life? William Shakespeare's? Or of portrayal of some of the plays that he made? Because I'm going to be honest, Romeo and Juliet, the main characters are pretty dumb. And I'm not saying that they're unintelligent, I'm saying that they really let their emotions get ahead of their reason, and I don't support that, alright? If you're thinking about killing yourself because you think somebody else is dead, don't. It's not a wise decision. And why should somebody else's death decide your death, okay? Just saying. You can learn from the historical mistakes, okay? Well, but how can you judge something when you haven't even tried it yet? Huh? How do you like them apples, eh? Yeah. your own words come back to bite you. And as I'm pretty sure that some of my own words in this video might come back to bite me in the comment section if someone gets really picky enough. I'm pretty sure there's some point wherein I am being inconsistent. While reading political or individual history, I gotta be honest, political is much more preferred for me because I personally find it to be much more relevant. But I do know that some people enjoy having an individual history more, but and I think the majority of people that enjoy history would probably prefer individual, but I'm more of a political guy. I'm always about knowing the facts. When was this? When was that? And what followed this? What's the order of the kings? And I've heard from someone else that that was the person that they like, the part of history that that person disliked the most, the raw facts. But unfortunately for me, that's actually my favorite part. So I'm not saying that the author is making a judgment here. I'm just putting in my own opinion here. You will know what mistakes were done and how it has altered the course of events. For example, Edward John Smith, the captain of RMS Titanic, made the first maiden voyage of the biggest ship on Earth a disaster because he was because he was using all his knowledge against him. Wait, what does that even mean? How? I don't comprehend this. This is outside of my contextual comprehension. Edward John Smith was using all his knowledge against him. What does that even mean? Are you implying that he wasn't smart, or that he was ignoring facts? I'm not entirely sure. But let's actually look that up. Let's get Edward John Smith. I don't know if that opens a new tab, so I might as well just get there. We'll go Wikipedia. We can always jump into a more reliable source. And I gotta say, because I know this comes up later, that Wikipedia is an okay source, okay? But it shouldn't be your final source when making an argument, because there are political groups that go for Wikipedia and intentionally make an effort to rewrite articles to follow their bias. And that happens, and also some people like to troll people on Wikipedia. I have seen those pages where people have trolled around, and to be honest, that is why Wikipedia is not 100% reliable. But in the same vein, any other source can also be unreliable for various reasons as well. So always be sure to double check the source and double check how it writes, and also double check it with other sources, because there may be some contradictions. Anyway, let's see. Edward John's, I'm reading his memorial statue. Captain of RMS Titanic. Commander Edward John Smith, various titles. Born January 27th, 1850, died April 15th, 1912. Bequeathing to his countrymen the memory and example of a great heart, a brave life, and a heroic death. Be British. Okay? So he is regarded as a hero in the UK, or at least by whoever made this plaque. And he was also the captain, goes down with a ship. Let's see, just minutes before it started its final plunge. No, I'm trying to see if Anyway, the ship sank. So I'm not going to dispute this right now. I could do some more research on it, but I think it's better for me to move on so that I can get this video done. So examples like these from history can help you in achieving your goals in a smarter way. Yes, that's right. In a smarter way. Okay. History doesn't sound a bad idea after all. Isn't it? Whoa, whoa, whoa. History doesn't sound a bad idea after all, isn't it? What? Let me highlight this. History doesn't sound a bad idea after all, isn't it? It doesn't sound a bad idea. That's right. The sound that history makes does not reach the bad ideas, and history, isn't it sound a bad idea? I'm just saying that is not a good construction of a sentence, to be honest. Okay, let's move on. It lets you know about the great leaders and individuals of a time. There are many people from the past who have inspired us and who have contributed their lives to the future, starting from scientists like Thomas Alva Edison. Let's be honest. Contributed his life to the future, sure, but I don't find Edison very inspirational. If you really look at his character, he treated some people in a very lousy way. Let's be honest. Especially when he was really competitive with Westinghouse, and he was all, yeah, let's have electric chairs. That'll show him how bad Westinghouse's electricity is. Haha. Edison, why? Just why? Graham Bell, Albert Einstein, very good, etc. Okay. To leaders like Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, slow down there, Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. to you, all right, John F. Kennedy, really? I don't know if John F. Kennedy was that great a president. I think he's really been overrated historically. And that might be because he died. Unfortunately, sometimes people who die become overrated for various reasons. And I think the same way about Malcolm X. Now, I'm not saying that John F. Kennedy is like Malcolm X, or that I think about them in the same way, but I think that Malcolm X has really been raised above where he should have been, simply because he was murdered. Etc. To the great musicians like Elvis Presley. Okay, etc. I gotta say, Elvis Presley was very influential in music. They have inspired us all. It is not about the things they did, but about the way they did and how it led to success. The ends don't justify the means. I think that's a good policy to have. But then again, if you didn't do things, then I don't really think your fame is justified if you haven't done anything. So I think a better way to phrase it is about the things they did and about the way they did and how it led to success. I think that's the best way to look at it. They were also broke like you. All of them? I don't think so. They also felt depressed and had insecurity issues. Not all of them. but they strived and made their way out. Inspired enough? And this, I think this is the problem with people being lumped together, and not necessarily in political collectivism, but just any kind of collectivism where you just lump a bunch of people into one box. Because you end up saying weird things like this that indirectly imply that a bunch of people were depressed, had insecurity issues, and were broke, when many of them weren't necessarily like that. Okay. 7. It will make you prepare for the future. To the persons in the past, this time which we live in was the future. Yes, but of course, they didn't really fully comprehend it, unless they actually saw the future somehow. They already saw what was going to come. Okay, we've got some real prophets here. And they prepared themselves for the future. Now, of course, I'm not saying that you can't look at trends and see how things are very likely to end up, because that is something that does happen. And you look at human psychology, human society is likely to react in certain ways to certain conditions, and generational shifts and all that. It is possible to predict a large number of things. Okay. Having knowledge of the history is really important because it will make you strive or survive for the future, unless you decide to try something before you judge it. There you go. Number 6. A career can be made from the knowledge of history. I know you must be thinking about history teacher. You must be thinking about history teacher. Okay. I don't know if that is a very good way to phrase it. But there can be more careers made. It is often seen that retro looks become fashionable today, or few ideas which did not work in the past might work in the future. I can see the bulb of idea blinking in your mind. Can you really, though? Because, to be honest, right now I'm not really having many ideas besides actually focusing on what I'm doing, and that is criticizing you. Well, not you as a person, but your writing here. Okay. So, what is the wait? Go ahead, grab the history book and discover some great things which will make you a historical person. A historical person. Wink. Wow. There are many ideas which are actually taken from the past and which are modernized a little bit, and voila! You have success right in front of your doorstep. That's right, it's your doorstep. It is right in front of your doorstep. All you need to do is open your door, pick it up, take it inside, open up the box, and you just got pranked, bro. No. Yeah, sure. But the thing that bothers me here, okay, because I am going to get nitpicky, because that's the purpose of this video. The purpose of this video is me getting nitpicky on these articles. Modernized. It triggers me to a very, very mild extent, but it triggers me nonetheless when people abuse words such as modernized or modern. Because modern, the modern era, isn't the same thing as the contemporary era. Because some people are even saying that we're in the postmodern era now. But modern generally refers to the past 500 years, generally from about, depending on where you want to put the beginning, you can put it at the beginning of the Columbian Exchange, when Columbus crossed the ocean and the colonial era began, or when the Protestant Reformation hit, or a number of things. You can start it there and end it maybe towards the end of the 20th century or the beginning of the 21st century, depending on whether you think the postmodern era should be a new era separate from the modern era. So anyway, you've got around 500 years in there. And to say that something is modernized, really based on that premise, implies that it's something that's pre-modern, something maybe medieval, classical, pre-classical, etc., that has then been then has modern ideas applied to it. For example, the rediscovery of some classical literature, etc. But now, of course, I know I'm going to get criticized a bit for saying that modern is defined this way, because many people are saying, well, what about the vernacular definition of modern? In the vernacular, modern means contemporary. And I say that you're wrong, because I'm not a populist, and therefore the vernacular definitions of things don't really matter to me. Okay, and a nice picture here. History buffs, turn your passion into paycheck. But that's actually something that would be fun to do, historical cosplay. That would be fun. I've never done it, though. I don't cosplay. Maybe I should. 5. It makes you a wiser person. Only if you understand it. Because there's a lot to be said for having knowledge or having processing capacity in your brain, but neither of those things really make you wise, which is why I think that most IQ tests don't really account for the wisdom aspect of someone. And of course, IQ tests are fundamentally flawed in many different ways anyway. When you study history, you will have an in-depth knowledge about each and every thing which happens either personally or globally. That's right. If you study history, you will have an initial and in-depth knowledge about each thing and everything which happens either personally or globally. That's right. If you study history, you will become omniscient. You will know everything. I'm joking. No, of course not. You might either brainstorm about it or have an answer for each and everything on the tip of your tongue. Sounds like me in high school. Oh my goodness. People called me the dictionary, the human dictionary. And people would say, oh my goodness, you know everything. Why don't you ask... I'm not going to say my name because I haven't revealed my real life name. Person X knows everything. Why don't you ask him? And you know what? That can get annoying. It can get annoying to be known as the guy that has a lot of knowledge. Now, that being said, I value knowledge a lot, more than Lamborghinis, in fact. But let's move on. Okay. It will make you a sensible and a logical person, which in turn will help you in achieving your dreams and goals in a smarter way. Okay, I heavily dispute this. Studying history will not make you more sensible or logical unless you apply your knowledge. Unless you look through history, you have to look through it with a lens. Because if you're just going for the raw facts, that's not going to make you more sensible or logical, because then you're not really applying it. And this is where your ideology comes in, and how ideology really affects how you study history, where you might see one thing as being good and another thing as being bad, and a person with a different ideology may have a different idea about what is good and bad, and that really messes with the concept of making you a sensible person, because different people have different sensibilities. And of course, many of these are mutually exclusive, which means that somebody is wrong. Okay, somebody is wrong, and I recommend that whenever you have a sensibility, you examine it to make sure that you're not wrong. Okay. 4. Oh wait, this is a countdown. I didn't actually notice that until now, although it should have been obvious. It will let you know about your culture and tradition. Only if you study your culture and tradition, okay? Because let's say you study somebody else's culture and tradition, that doesn't let you know about your culture and tradition. But of course, now I'm just getting too nitpicky, I think. Culture and tradition are something which goes down the lane of history and which requires an in-depth study of why this and that culture and tradition actually began. Yes, why did it begin? You always asked your grandparents. What if you didn't have grandparents? About why this culture began and why we follow that tradition. So now you can actually make an in-depth knowledge of each. You can actually have an in-depth knowledge of each and everything, but you don't need my tongue. You don't even need to rummage through the books, because you can chant "All hail Wikipedia." That's right, you've got Wikipedia. You don't need secondary sources. Your primary source is Wikipedia. Okay, I just got triggered by that. To be honest, Wikipedia is a great resource. You can use it, and the best thing that you can do with it is whenever you see a part of Wikipedia that you'd like to use for something, there should be a link to the source. As in, Wikipedia articles aren't supposed to be written by first-hand experience. They're supposed to be written based off of a source. As such, there usually will be a source, but of course there are parts of Wikipedia where there's citation needed. And whenever there's citation needed, it means take this with a very large grain of salt, because it might not be accurate. And you always asked your grandparents. This is the problem with trying to write articles in a very personal manner. It leads to you making presumptions about others that aren't true. Now, I'm not saying that there was any malicious intent here, and you might even say that I'm too nitpicky here, and that's sort of the point. But, yeah. All hail Wikipedia. No. 3. It will tell you about where it all started. Okay, here we go. You always think about where did this start and why did it end up here. Why do we have to do this and why do we have to do that? You are always famished to know about the answers. No, the answers about how it all began. About why did we start doing this and that. Curiosity always has an answer. In the end, so your curiosity will be ended. Your questions will be answered when you learn history, and also it will help you live your life in a better manner. Now, of course, living your life in a better manner, again, it really depends on the worldview that you apply to history. Also, your questions will be answered. As someone who studies history a lot, I have to say that a lot of times my questions don't get answered. And a lot of times I wish I had more sources on certain historical events, because many times I just can't have it. For example, I was looking at the wars following the French Revolution, and I was trying to find out where a certain army was at a very specific point in time to tell whether a city had been taken by that army or not, and it took me hours, and I still did not find a solid answer, and that annoys me to some extent. Also, the image that you show here is obviously cosmology, which is different from history, because history is based on a historical record. Cosmology is based on scientific theory or on religious exegesis. So it's different, and things that are different are not the same. So just getting nitpicky, don't use cosmology when you're talking about history. Just like you shouldn't use... You shouldn't be using stuff about... let me think. Prehistory is not history. There you go. By definition, prehistory is not history. Therefore, when you're talking about history, don't talk about prehistory. There you go. Unless you want to start a discussion, which I guess is okay as well. And I would be glad to have a discussion on prehistory, but that's not why I'm here today. It will lead to development. As said earlier, history will teach you how to not to do. How to not to do. The second to is not necessary. The same mistakes again. This will, on the other hand, lead to development. We can have a sip of the past, which will help us to move forward to the future advancements. As we are the citizens of the future, it is our responsibility to know things in a detailed manner. And when you know history, your future generations will also know it. No. That's not how knowledge works. That is not how knowledge works. If nobody studies history, then everyone will forget about it. Obviously. That's how knowledge works. There you go. I think that we don't want it to happen, do we? And paleontology, which also is not the same thing as history. Not initially, but slowly, you'll start loving it. Wait, stop. Not initially, but slowly, you'll start loving in. Okay. I've never heard that construction in. Oh, there you go. You've got me saying it. I've never heard of that construction. Loving in. Yes, I like to love in. What does that mean? What does that mean? Ask a mathematician and he will describe his immense love for his subject, unless he doesn't love his subject, alright? Not having a job doesn't mean you love your job. Logic. There you go. You can see that spark in his eyes. And he will have the widest of smiles. But you think this is... Wait, don't you think this is what life all about? This is what life all about? Okay. I think we need a verb in there. I don't think having a spark in your eyes and the widest of smiles is what life is all about. If you think that's what life is all about, then I think you've set a very low standard for yourself. And if you can reach it, I sure hope that you're looking for some higher horizons, okay? To enjoy the things you do. Okay. What if you're doing something good, but it's not enjoyable? There you go. Don't do good things, kids. Hey! No. You shouldn't be basing the things that you do based on your feelings, because if you have an objective morality, that will inevitably come in conflict with the theory that you should do the things that you enjoy. or enjoy the things that you do, because that means that if you, for some reason, are not enjoying the things that you do, then should you really be doing them? Even if they're the right thing? It just gets weird into ethics, and that's a subject for another time. I'm not saying that you will love the subject, definitely, but there might be some of you who will have an immense passion for the subject, and maybe you'll finally do what you were supposed to do. Okay? Now you're supposed to do something. What was I supposed to do? Are you implying that there's some obligation that people have to history? Okay. That seems to be the implication here. History is fantasy. What? Okay, fair enough. Thus, I would like to conclude by saying that maybe you can take history out of yourself, but history cannot be taken out of you. Wait, stop. Maybe you can take history out of yourself, but history cannot be taken out of it, because history is nothing but something which entirely comprises of human beings and a collective effort of all the human beings. Comprises of human beings. Poland can of into space. There we go. Poland ball. More like the wrecking ball of grammar. Hits again. Okay. Collective effort of all the human beings. History is nothing but something which entirely comprises of human beings and a collective effort of all the human beings. I will have to disagree with a collective effort. Now, if you had said collected effort, I'd say sure. You can collect the efforts of every human being and call it history. Unless it's prehistory, in which case you can't. But collective effort makes it sound like, yeah, we're all working together here. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, ISIS was just trying to work with the Yazidis. They're trying to team up, do all the good things. No. Without history, we wouldn't have existed. Whoa there. Slow down. You just went illogical. History is not the past. History is the record of the past. Just because nobody records history doesn't mean that nobody exists. Logic. We wouldn't have existed, and without it, we wouldn't have achieved so tremendously. You don't know that. Prove it, alright? Prove it. Now, of course, I do agree to some extent that history has been very useful, and has historically been very useful as well. But I don't think we can say that the invention of history made everything 100% better, because it certainly hasn't. And we wouldn't have achieved so tremendously. Who is this we? Alright? Because I don't know what you've achieved, and you certainly don't know what I've achieved. So why don't you stop with this collectivist language and give credit where credit is due, okay? Napoleon achieved. Alexander the Great achieved. Stalin achieved. The pyramids, okay? They were built by the people that built them. Don't take credit for other people's work. Make history your friend, and it will tell you tales, which will make you awestruck, because there is no other subject like history. starting from science, to literature, to engineering. It all started from the past, and it all was made because of great people. Really depends on how you define great, but sure. Fair enough. You can define great that way. I don't mind. I do not mind. Okay. Thank you very much for watching. If you have your own commentary on my commentary, on this person's commentary on history, please do write in the comments below. Have I been too harsh? Have I been too easy? Have I been incorrect? I would love somebody to tell me that I'm incorrect, so that I can then be more correct in the future. Just like I am telling other people that this article is incorrect, so that maybe the site that puts these articles up can have more correct articles in the future. Just saying. That's a good thing to have. To have objective correctness. Alright? It's a good thing. That is why, well, correct comes from the same root as the word right, and right not as in the direction, but rather as in something being righteous, something being good. It's good to be correct. There you go. And thank you all for watching. I will be seeing you all next time on Ultos. Over and out.